What's up? It's another Sherwood Forward Giant pregame show. I'm Tyler, your Remchuck. A bit of a different flavor this week. Caroline is off, so I'm going to be handling the show myself. Shout out to Sherwood Forward the Giant. You can find them on Twitter at Sherwood Forward, and then you can find them on Instagram at Sherwood Forward _ the Giant. Let's dig into things. We'll take a look back at the Oilers' last game in just a second, but I mean, the real recap, I suppose, would be All-Star Weekend, and it was actually a weirdly disappointing All-Star Weekend if you cared that much about it. I suppose for the Oilers, the Pacific Division lost out in their first game. Connor McDavid did not win fastest skater. Leon Draisaitl was rather disappointing in his accuracy shooting competition as well. But All-Star Weekend is not about the results, I suppose. It's about having fun. I had fun down there covering it. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl looked like they had a blast as well. As for the Oilers, their second half begins now, and they're coming off a pretty big win over the Washington Capitals. It was not the prettiest of efforts for Edmonton, but one big positive is that they got off to a good start. Which, I mean, we know that. You've been watching the show. They've been pretty bad at doing that and scoring first. But they're now 12-0 when they scored the first goal of the game. Not only did they get the first one, they got the second one, they got the third one. They were up 3-0 early. They outshot the Capitals 12-6 in the first period. And then I think the best way to probably describe it would be to say that they took their foot off the gas, right? I mean, that's all it is. And it really comes back to something we've talked about all year. This team isn't hard enough to play against. They don't forecheck hard enough. They don't make life difficult on the opposition. And they went up 3-0, and they probably went, hey, it's point night. Started to look ahead. It's an all-star break coming up. A lot of these guys had a chance to rest up or get out of town if they wanted to. And they just simply let Washington back into a game that Washington had no business being in. They had chased Ilya Samsonov. There was no reason for that game to become as close as it was, but Edmonton put up just 5 shots in the second period. And then late, they take that penalty late as well, and you're thinking, they're going to find a way to lose this game in regulation. Like, they're not even going to get a point out of this thing. And then lo and behold, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, with a bit of a lucky break, he gets the puck back door, a shorthanded marker, and then Nuge buries his 6th of the year into an empty netter as well. How great is that for Ryan Nugent Hopkins as well? I mean, a guy who has been racking up the assists this year, but the goal scoring just wasn't there. Coming into that game, 4 goals in 34 games. He's now up to 6 on the season, like I said, and that helps, right? If he can get going on a bit of a roll here, I still think Nuge, even though he's missed some games, can find a way to be a 20-goal guy this year. But even if he doesn't, and I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but that Nuge-Hyman duo, that's proving to be really important for this hockey team, I think. You know, we've talked for so long about them not having depth, not having a bottom 6 that can score. And while I'm sure Nugent Hopkins would love to be up in the top 6 and still playing with either McDavid or Draisaitl, him and Hyman are playing a pivotal role on that third line. They've now played 141 minutes together at 5-on-5, and the score's 6-5 Oilers when they're on the ice. If that duo can take some hard matchups when they're on home ice and then outscore the opposition when they're on the road, that's crucial for this team, because then on home ice, like the Oilers are tonight against Vegas, on home ice, they'll be able to give Dave Tippett a chance to get McDavid or Draisaitl out there against third pairings and third lines and fourth lines more often. And when they're on the road, if that duo can go out there and wreak havoc on other teams' third and fourth lines, or even worst case scenario, break even, that's going to be huge for this hockey team going forward. Nugent Hopkins, I know he's missed some games, but he's producing at what would be a 77-point pace this season. Zach Hyman's producing at nearly what would be a 60-point pace as well. So they're not going to hit those marks if they stay on this pace, because they aren't going to play all 82 games, obviously. But the point I'm making here, when you look at what those guys do on the power play, what they do on the penalty kill, and what they've been doing at 5-on-5 now recently, and giving the Oilers that layer of depth, how can anyone look at those 2 contracts, which are both, 5.25 million? How can you not look at both of those and give Ken Holland a little bit of a golf clap? Like, I've been one who has been hard on Holland. He made some really bad moves over the last couple of years. Signing Hyman and signing Nugent Hopkins to the deals that he got them to are probably some of his best work since being the Oilers GM. And hopefully now Ken Holland recognizes that, hey, I made the Evander Kane plunge. I did that. A lot of the fan base didn't like it. I understand that. I've talked about that before. We don't need to get into it. But you did that. It pushes everyone down the depth chart. You could potentially bring up Dylan Holloway at the deadline, make this depth even better. Holland should be looking at this and go, I brought in Kane. I'm in for a dime. I'm in for $1, or whatever the saying is. I honestly don't know. Don't make fun of me in the Twitch chat. But go all in now. Like, go get that goalie. Go get a left-handed defenseman. Push those chips in, because this forward depth is good enough for this team to go on a run. And if you want to call me a homer for saying that, I don't know. Go ahead. I don't really care, I suppose. But call me a homer in the chat if you want. This forward depth is good enough for this team to go on a run. With the high-end skill and with the third line playing the way they are, they can keep that rolling. They need to be going all in at the deadline. And that's what this new time and duo is really showing me. Let's move on now. Oilers coming off a win tonight. They are going up against the Vegas Golden Knights. Let's get to the opposition report, brought to you by Yegburger at YEG_burger on Instagram to check out the burger of the month. Been a long time since I've been able to plug the burger of the month on Yegburger. The opposition tonight, the Vegas Golden Knights. And I was joking with Bagged Milk about this a while ago, but remember back our viewing party, November 27th, Oilers versus Golden Knights. Edmonton pulls out that close 3-2 win on a Saturday night, and we're sitting there going, they are 10 points up on the Vegas Golden Knights. That's a hard thing to come back from. Edmonton could very well win the division. At that point, they'd moved in to be the odds-on favorites to win the Pacific Division. And now let's look at what's happened since then. Since that game on November 27th, Vegas is 15-7-3, 10th in the NHL. Edmonton, 8-11-3, 24th in the NHL. Vegas has since traded for Jack Eichel, although he will not be in the lineup. A big reason why Edmonton has fallen off: their power play is 23rd in the league in that span. Their penalty kill is 31st. This is a team who, for the last few years really has kind of lived and died by either the play of Mike Smith and their goaltending or the special teams. And with Mike Smith out and with the Oilers special teams floundering, it has not been a recipe for success. You know that. In that time as well, Vegas has had a top 10 power play. That was something they really struggled with early in the year, and they found a way to completely turn that aspect of their game around, and it's showing. It's showing in the results. They're also getting some great play from Robin Leonard, who I don't think he's confirmed quite yet, but he is expected to get the start. We'll get into that a little bit later on as well. But really, since the last time these two teams met, they've both been going in opposite directions. Despite that, top of the division, again, second homer comment of the show coming from me, top of the division is technically still within reach for the Oilers. Vegas is sitting in first. They got 57 points in 46 games. Calgary's right behind them as well. They're .001 of a percentage behind the Vegas Golden Knights. So Calgary could very well catch them. They're 5 points back with 4 games in hand. Edmonton is 8 points back with 4 games in hand. I mean, if you win tonight, you're going to be 6 points back with 4 games in hand. You only have one more matchup this year against Vegas. It is on, I think, the 16th of April is when they play each other next. 16th of April is when they play each other next. But if you win tonight, you're 6 points back of Vegas with 4 games in hand. The schedule is going to be busy, and games in hand really aren't even that much of an advantage when you factor in there's going to be a lot of back-to-back games for teams who have played less and things like that. I get it. But Edmonton should be hungry. You're coming out of the All-Star break. You're nice and rested. You're on home ice, and you have a chance to beat the top team in your division and not only really put yourself in a playoff spot, because if they win tonight, I believe they will leapfrog the Los Angeles Kings for that third and final playoff spot in the Pacific Division. And you're still within hunt of not just the Flames, but the Golden Knights as well for that top spot. So it's a really big, important game for the Oilers tonight. Like I said, last head-to-head game for these two teams will come on April 16th. Vegas, in their last 10, they are 5-3-2. Edmonton is 5-4-1. Some leaders on this Golden Knights team. Again, they're getting Jack Eichel back at some point. That's going to be big. The fascinating thing will be what they need to subtract to keep everything cap compliant. Alec Martinez is out of the lineup. So there is, I think there is a way they can make it work in the meantime. But once Martinez has to come off LTIR, they're going to have to sacrifice a piece. And the two names that Frank Saravalli has brought up a few times over the last kind of year, Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith. When you go look at Vegas' scoring leaders, Marchessault's leading their team in scoring, 20 goals in 41 games. This guy's at a 40-goal pace. He's got 32 points. Riley Smith is third on the team with 30 points as well. The addition of Eichel is huge. What it's going to do to their lineup, and we'll show you their line combos in just a second here, what Eichel will do to that lineup is give them really the only piece they've been missing to be a perfect team. The hard pill to swallow with that now is you need to trade likely one of the two fan favorites in Riley Smith or Jonathan Marchessault. Marchessault was an all-star this weekend. I saw it. This fan base absolutely loves the guy. If they showed him on the Jumbotron for 2-3 seconds, the place went nuts. So it's a hard pill to swallow. They'll be a better team when that happens because they'll get assets for those guys as well, or for whichever one of them they trade. Eichel skating with a non-contact jersey had some people worried, some Oilers fans worried. Is he going to play tonight? He's not playing tonight. but he could be back in the lineup in a couple of weeks. And then when Martinez is back too, I do not envy GM Kelly McCrimmon is the point I'm trying to make. He has some tough decisions to make. That's your opposition report brought to you by Yegburger. Let's get into our line combos now, presented by Deuce Vodka. Brad, I know you're there. Hopefully you're getting some Neon Nation bombs ready here. Let's get into it. Let's start with the Vegas Golden Knights. Like I said, this lineup's going to be dangerous when they get Jack Eichel in the lineup. For now, though, it's Chandler Stevenson centering the top line with Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty. Chandler Stevenson having himself a pretty solid year for this Vegas Golden Knights team. In his last 5 games, though, he has just 1 goal on the year, though. He has 38 points. So really good year for Stevenson. William Karlsson with Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault, the 20-goal men. Nicholas Waugh with Evgeny Dadonov and Matthias Janmark is the third line. The fourth line is Brett Howden with Keegan Kolesar and Will Carrier. The D pairings for the Vegas Golden Knights, like I said, no Martinez, and they're also missing Zach Whitecloud, who's going to miss, I think, the next week for them. So their D pairings are a little bit banged up right now, but they still have Pietrangelo playing with Nick Hague. They still have Shea Theodore. He's playing with Braden McNabb, and Ben Hutton with Dylan Coughlin. The starting goalie, like I said, expected to be Robin Leonard, but not confirmed yet, so keep it locked on Daily Faceoff for that. 19-12-1 is Robin Leonard, a 276 goals against, averaging 910 save percentage. And how about this? In his last 5 games, only 9 goals against for Robin Leonard. He's had a 930 or better save percentage in 4 of those 5 games as well. Robin Leonard's playing some really good hockey right now. The Oilers' offense is going to have to be real sharp tonight if they want to get anything past the big Golden Knights goaltender. For the Oilers, Connor McDavid, Kyler Yamamoto, Evander Kane. Top line stays the same. A bit of an interesting idea, though, or a bit of an interesting change, I should say, with Draisaitl going between Cassian and Ryan McLeod. They're going to have Nuge with Jesse Puljujarvi and Zach Hyman as the third line. Devin Shore with Warren Fogle and Derek Ryan is going to be the fourth line there. Zach Cassian, I mean, this one fired people up. I saw it on Twitter, but the interesting spot here and the way maybe I'll defend this decision a little bit for Dave Tippett, you're on home ice, you have last change. If you can have Nuge with Hyman, who've been good, and Jesse Puljujarvi, who's been driving play pretty well, you got them as a third line. If you can have them going up against one of those top 2 lines on Vegas, whether it's the Stone Pacioretty duo or that Misfits line with Karlsson, Smith, and Marchessault, if they can eat one of those matchups and negate one of those top 2 lines, the Connor McDavid line will likely do the same to the other line, potentially outscore them, who knows. That Draisaitl line all of a sudden is opened up for a pretty juicy matchup, whether it's against the third line or the fourth line or the third pairing of the Vegas Golden Knights. That Draisaitl line is suddenly in a really nice spot. So again, you sacrifice a little bit and you're giving Zach Cassian another chance in what is technically a top 6 spot, even though he's done really nothing to deserve that. But by beefing up that third line a little bit, I wonder if Dave Tippett will almost use that Nuge line as more of a second line and then let Draisaitl just try to absolutely run wild on whoever he's going up against on the Vegas Golden Knights. There's a chance this works is kind of what I'm saying, but it also shows that the depth of this team is going to look a lot better if Dylan Holloway can come up and be anything close to a solid top 9 player for them, because then you can move Cassian down into the bottom 6. Your fourth line all of a sudden looks a lot better, and Holloway could bring you some really interesting speed and size to that top 9. The D pairings for the Oilers, we got Nurse with Bouchard, Duncan Keith with Cody Ceci, William Lagesson with Tyson Barrie. Nothing changing there. Chris Russell was put on IR, so I think he's going to be out for a little bit. The other news of the week from the Edmonton Oilers was that Mikko Koskinen tested positive for COVID. He is on the COVID list. Stuart Skinner is back up with the big team. Expect him to get the start tomorrow when the Oilers take on the Blackhawks. Mike Smith is going to go tonight, and boy, is it ever important for the Oilers to get Mike Smith going. I mean, this is only going to be start number 7 for him. This is only going to be his 4th appearance in a game since October 19th, and the 3 others he's had have not been great. He allowed 4 goals to St. Louis on December 29th, 6 goals to New Jersey in a loss on December 31st, and then on January 5, he was actually pretty good. He stopped 29-32 in that game against the Leafs where the Oilers didn't have Connor McDavid, so they need Smith to get going. If you remember back to 2020, this is right around the time, though, that Smith came back into the lineup and really turned on the Jets and gave the Oilers some really good performances. This next month of play from Mike Smith is going to have a massive impact on what the Oilers do at the trade deadline. Right now, his save percentage is .898 on the year. If Smith comes in and is a .920 goalie, .915 we could even go with, I think Holland might just roll with Smith, Koskinen, and Skinner, some duo of them, and roll that into the playoffs and focus his assets on going to get a left-handed defenseman, kind of like he did last year, similar deadline plan. If Smith comes in and is around 900, and the Oilers are winning games, but they're 5-4 games or 4-3 games where they're out shooting the other team, and Smith just isn't great, I think there's a lot more pressure all of a sudden on Ken Holland to go out and get this team a goalie. It starts tonight, though, for Mike Smith. He should be rested. He's barely played this year. They're coming off the All-Star break. The team in front of him should give him a really solid performance. Mike Smith needs to start coming through for the Oilers. He needs to stay in the net. That's step one. Obviously, he needs to be healthy, and at 39 years old, that is not a guarantee for Mike Smith. But he needs to play well, or else the Oilers could be really, really forced to go get a good goalie. And I get it. The people saying they need to go get a goalie now, I see that. But if Smith plays well, you just have to know Ken Holland. He's not, if Smith is $920 for the next month, he's not going to go trade a first and a prospect and go get some slam dunk goalie solution or give up a second round pick for anyone. He's not going to do that. He clearly likes Mike Smith, and so does Dave Tippett. So this next month, all I'm saying, it's going to be a big one for this team. Obviously, they need to stay in the hunt heading into the deadline, and Smith's got to play good for that to happen. Those are your lines presented by Deuce Vodka. Let's get into your betting report. The Oilers are underdogs. Caroline is not here, so I am not forced to bark like a dog, but I'll do it anyways. The Oilers are dogs. Plus 105 on the money line. The Vegas Golden Knights are minus 125 favorites. Edmonton, if you like them on the puck line, taking that reverse puck line, a very juicy plus 225 for the Oilers. If you like them in regulation, they are plus 145. The over-under in this game is set at 6.5. Edmonton as the home team this year is 12-8-0. Vegas as the road team, very good, 13-6-1. Interesting spot for the Oilers. I don't know if I love them in this matchup, but I mean, taking them in regulation plus 145, that payout is pretty good. For my bet of the game presented by PointsBet, I'm taking Connor McDavid to go over 1.5. I think the power play is going to get hot. It's going to get rolling. I think McDavid is primed for a big second half. I think the All-Star break is going to revitalize him a little bit. Plus 130 is the payout on McDavid to go over 1.5, and I like going with that spot. Oilers, underdogs tonight, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. Wrapping up the Sherwood Ford Giant pregame show here. The next game for the Oilers is going to be tomorrow. It's back-to-back games, so I'll be right back with you for that one as the Edmonton Oilers are going to be taking on, like I said, the Chicago Blackhawks. Back-to-back home games for the Edmonton Oilers as they begin their second half of the season, and what an important second half of the season it is. The Oilers currently sitting, if you sort by points percentage, they are just barely outside of a playoff spot, but it's a big, big run here. They got games in hand, 39 games to go. In fact, there's your hashtag, your Remchuck math for the show for Edmonton to solidify themselves in a playoff spot and get a chance to go on a playoff run. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all your comments as well. They were active, but I didn't have a lot of time to read them, obviously, because I'm doing the whole thing here by myself. But thanks for tuning in. I'll be right back tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed the show. Let's go Oilers. Shout out to Sherwood Ford.